Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining me once again at the table. I have tonight with me Greg Fehr, a Shadyside resident who is also involved in Belair quite a bit. Greg used to work for the Times Leader as a photographer, as a reporter, and as an editor. And he also worked at Belmont College. Some of you may know Greg from visiting various churches, but the way I got to know Greg was back last year around October at the Brooks Run United Methodist Church. He came to visit one day, and it was the most interesting thing. And he really encouraged me because he said he had a street ministry and he was witnessing to a lot of kids. And he said these kids knew songs. They knew some of the popular songs. And he asked them where they heard those songs, and they were, it was Brooks Run Church. So that was really encouraging for us out at Brooks Run. So when I ran into Greg again, and we'll probably get into how that all happened possibly tonight, I wanted to have him on the show and have him tell his story. But before we turn it over to Greg, I want to just bring up a couple of things to remind everybody that we still have the gazebo ministry Tuesday nights from 6 to 7. Ian and I will be at the gazebo across the street from First United Methodist Church in the park from 6 to 7. If you know anybody that wants to talk, maybe they're afraid to come to church, maybe they just want to have somebody pray for them, tell them to come out and talk to us. We'll be there 6 to 7 every Tuesday until it gets cold. I think we went into November sometime last year and we just couldn't take it any longer. Also wanted to let you know that we are done with the Bible study until the end of August, but we will give you more details about that. Also, July 17th will be our kids table. Wednesday, July 17th, we'll have a special episode with probably a lot of kids surrounding me that night, ages 12 and under, and then we're going to do a teen table for ages 13 and up a few weeks after that, but I'll give you more details as we get closer to that. One final thing I want to bring up tonight, I'm looking for someone who might be interested in helping me with this show. As you see, I got the computer sitting here with me, and as you also have seen in weeks past, we had that echo problem. If I had a person who could help me, let me know, hey, we're having an echo problem. Hey, we lost our connection, something like that. You'd be off camera. You'd be behind the scenes, but there's no pay. I'm sorry, I can't afford to pay anybody. But if you want to do that, if you're willing to volunteer to help me with that, please let me know because I could really use some help. Okay, well, with that, I would like to turn it over to Greg Fehr. He's got some things that he wants to talk to us about tonight. So, Greg, why don't you tell us what's on your mind?
Well, until you mentioned that, the street ministry,
yeah.
I was going to start off totally different.
I threw you off already.
You did. I brought stuff here, and I want to get into all of it.
Okay.
But I want to talk about street ministry first.
Okay, that sounds good.
Just how that started and how God brought various people together. I thought it was incredible, but it goes back to a few years ago when God was really on me. His presence was on me to share my faith more.
Okay.
And my mom, wonderful lady in the Lord, used to tell me that the Holy Spirit is a gentleman. But boy, he can be persuasive. When you're supposed to do something and you don't really want to do it.
Yes, he can nudge you.
So I mean, it just coming back to me. I need to go share my faith.
Okay.
I can speak inside of church walls really easy. Outside of the church walls, whole different story.
Yeah.
So, okay, Lord, yes, I'll do it. I'll go. So me and another fellow from the church, we didn't really know what to do. So I play guitar. Grabbed my guitar, and this other fellow and I, we headed for the park.
Okay.
And we walked around the park, and nobody. And so we figured we'd go down the business district.
Okay.
And it was almost amazing what was happening. We would see people that we might have had a chance to talk to just come running out of businesses and the bars and just run away.
Really?
We couldn't get near them. So we did this for a few weeks, and we were, Lord, I want to do what you tell me to do. And then my pastor used to always end the Sunday morning message by saying, the service now begins right outside the door.
Absolutely.
So I thought, okay, right outside the door. That's Franklin Street.
Okay.
Franklin Street. And we go up and down Franklin Street. There's a lot of people yelling at kids and things like that. And it just,
Yeah.
So, right outside the door, I grab a plastic chair, I grab my guitar, and I sit right outside the door. And I start playing and singing. And for maybe 2-3 weeks, my only audience was like, there was an upside down shopping cart, there was a condemned property and a few stray cats. And the cats were nice. But that was about it for. But I sensed that was the place.
Okay.
And so I just kept doing it. I'm just singing out there by myself. Until finally this one little boy came by. And he was kind of, what's he doing? So I said, well, just playing guitar, I like playing outside, sounds good to me. He goes, I got a guitar. So he runs across the street and he comes dragging the guitar on the ground, this old pink guitar. He's running, dragging this guitar, and he puts it up and it's all out of tune, and he starts slamming away on it, and he starts singing, and he's singing about, well, then, the police came and they took away my uncle, and then we got the dog, and then I hit it on the head with a shovel, and I'm thinking, oh, that poor little boy. He's singing about what he's
been through, yeah.
What he knows. But it went from there to, and over time, this took months and even years. We were out there several years. But it went from that beginning to a point where we've had as many as 75 people in the street out in front of the church, much smaller congregation in the church than we had outside. And
wow.
Again, you're asking for help, and that gets back to the importance of help.
Yeah.
I needed people. I needed people to just stand in the street to make sure that the cars wouldn't go by. People to just come out and talk to a kid. Kids need adults to just listen to them and to show off, and just do something, interact with the kids. And our venue was basically, we would feed them. There were a lot of kids come hungry, so we'd have hot dogs, hamburgers, pizza from Little Caesars, whatever. And I think that was a big draw. I'd like to say the Holy Spirit brought him in, I'm sure he did. But he probably used pizza to, have the smell of pizza to do it.
Sure.
So they come in, we'd feed them, and then we set up a sound system, and these kids were just loving, just singing away into and I don't want to disparage any, but sometimes they wasn't the best, They were were so happy with it. They loved doing it. They come back week after week and sing into the microphone, and we'd also play games with them afterwards on the condition that they would give us 10 minutes to talk about Jesus.
Okay.
So, and then after that, I sensed that the Lord, actually for years, I could sense his calling out west. I just always loved the West. I'd look at cowboy movies when I was a little kid, and I'd look at the desert landscapes and the cactus and, the rocks, and I loved it. And even years ago, my son's 30 now. He's in New York City. He's making it as a professional musician. We could have a whole show on that if you'd like.
Okay, yeah. That'd be great. Have him come by sometime.
But I remember telling him when he was, 9 or 10, Arizona is just calling me, So, getting back to the street ministry, you know how it is when you feel called to one ministry, but your heart's still in the other ministry.
Sure, I understand that.
But then, as we were talking to these kids, there was one young lady, she called me. She said, listen to this song on my phone. Oh, that's a good song. It's a contemporary Christian song. Where'd you hear that? Oh, well, I heard about it from somebody at Brooks Run. Brooks Run. What's a Brooks Run? That's a stream. Okay, I know. Brooks Run. So, and then we'd start telling stories, basic Bible stories, and they would know them. Wow. Where you learn about that? Brooks Run. What is Brooks Run? So I finally figured out it was a Brooks Run Methodist church.
Yeah.
Thank God for you guys. You're doing a wonderful job. It was really having an impact.
Yeah.
We could
Good.
tell it out on the streets.
Good.
So when it came time for me to go to someplace else, our prayers were just that, that would continue. We were praying for you guys, and, and I felt leave to go. Now, a couple of years before that, I have to back up a second, I had actually gone out west.
Okay.
My employer had given me a month off. I was pretty amazed that they would do that. But they gave me a month off, and it wasn't especially a spiritual journey. It didn't start out to be that way. My big deal was I had a Harley Springer, and I wanted to take it on a desert highway. That was my big deal. I just wanted to get out there and go. That was my deal.
Yeah.
But I get out there, and as I hit the Southwest, I started, I'm on Facebook, and I started taking pictures and sending them in, and it seemed I actually developed a small following. They seemed to love these pictures. One of my coworkers actually had compiled. I don't know how to do that.
No, you're fine. This is great.
Had compiled a scrapbook. She actually got them printed of the
pictures that you took.
The pictures out west. And as I did this, the Lord just, I was traveling a lot by myself.
Yeah.
And the Lord just got he just started drawing near as I was traveling. And he started just speaking to me through the scriptures. I mean, before that, it was like, I have to read my Bible first thing in the morning. But on that trip, it was, I get to.
I get to, yeah.
The universe wanted to talk to me first thing in the morning. And I would see scenes like this, and you can't really see them, but this beautiful Colorado River and these rocks. And I'm in a state park in New Mexico overlooking the Colorado River. And it was, I could just, how when you're out in creation and the wonder.
The beauty of God.
All the beauty of what he has created. And I'm looking at this stream in the desert, and I've got my Bible right there beside me. And it just it opened up to Isaiah 43:19. Here I am doing a new thing. Here I am doing a new thing. Now it is springing up. Do you not know about it? I will surely make a way in the desert, rivers in the wasteland.
Yeah.
And that was just one example. I mean, he was talking to me. I don't recommend this, but I think at the time I probably could have thrown my Bible up in the air and it would have landed on the exact verse that I needed to see at that moment.
Yeah.
It was absolutely beautiful.
It's amazing how he does that.
Yes, he does. So I just had a wonderful trip and came back, and my trip out west, I just kept thinking about it. I can't wait to get back. I'm like that right now. I love my homeland. I do. I love my town. I love the people. I love my friends. I love my family. I love the green. But I don't know. I just have this call. I sense I'm supposed to be out there, but for right now.
You're supposed to be here.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be here. So there was about 2 years when I'm home again, and that's when we were having the street ministry, and and during that time, I developed a real interest, actually 2 interests that I thought were separate. One was in the Hebrew language and in the culture of the people to whom these words were originally said to and written to. It was fascinating. The Hebrew language, the ancient Hebrew language especially. I mean, in the English language, we have a word, cat. Okay, cat. It means something.
Right. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
But in Hebrew, the first letter would have a meaning. The second letter would have a meaning.
Yes.
The third letter would have a meaning. The first two letters would have an additional meaning
yes.
on top, and then combine them with the three, put them with the other words in the sentences and paragraphs, and plus each letter was a picture, and each letter had a numerical equivalent, which lined up to the rest of the words in the sentence in the paragraph and line it up and down, and it's just, we will spend an eternity with the wonders we have in this book right in front of us. It's incredible. Yeah. So the ancient Hebrew language and their customs, and my favorite book. I started reading stuff from rabbis, especially Messianic rabbis. Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, New York Times best-selling author of The Harbinger.
Yes, I've read The Harbinger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what a book.
Yeah.
But this book of mysteries, I don't know if you're familiar with this
one or familiar. Not. I have not read it, but I've heard of it.
Oh, it is incredible, and it's about a teacher out in the desert.
Oh, wow.
And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And I was reading this.
Yeah, in the desert.
And it's the teacher and a student. And every day is a different teaching. And a lot of it has to do with Hebrew words, bringing them into commonly, scriptures that we say all the time and have memorized. But he will say that the real word in Hebrew was, and it doesn't contradict what we have.
Oh, absolutely.
But it adds so much more in the Hebrew, and especially when you compare it to the culture to whom it was, originally given. And all these insights are in here. So I was just totally taken with that study, and at the same time, I was rekindling an interest in the Native American culture. I've always liked, when I was a kid watching cowboy movies, I always thought the Indians were the cool ones.
Right.
I was always rooting for them. So, and I thought it was completely, different. Did we do something?
No,
there?
I was just making sure we didn't have any comments. I just check it every once in a while until I get my helper.
Oh, yeah.
So you're good. Keep going. Keep going.
And I thought it was totally different. I just was looking into Native American cultures. I've always liked to do things like shoot a bow or throw a tomahawk and that kind of stuff. And then I was actually doing some more research on the Hebrew when I found out. I was watching this thing on YouTube, and I don't even remember how I stumbled upon it. But it was this teaching by Chief Joseph Riverwind.
Okay.
And he and his wife, Dr. Larilyn Riverwind, wrote a book. That's What the Old Ones Say. Another goodie.
That's what the old ones say.
That's what the old ones say. And I hope I have this right. I'm just beginning my study on this, so I'm not saying this is definitively what's happening. This is my understanding that the Native Americans, the First Nations people, have throughout the centuries have had an oral tradition, much like the ancient Hebrew people had an oral tradition.
Okay.
And then for various reasons, before they would never write it down, but now they found that it would be best if they wrote it down.
Okay.
And it was, to them, it was just the same as the Hebrew people. They used to write out scriptures on big parchments. If you made one tiny mistake, you cut that up, burned it, you destroyed.
Right.
And it was the same for the First Nations people. You had to get it exactly right. There was no opinions, no coloring.
No commentary.
You passed along the oral tradition, from what I understand. And they started, as these were written down, and other people started reading them. Well, now, there seems to be a remarkable similarity to that written oral tradition and the stories in the Old Testament.
No kidding.
Tanakh. Just amazing.
Yeah.
Just for one instance, for instance, the names of God. We call God Yahweh.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying all First Nations people, or, just as I cannot say all white people,
Sure.
Believe this way. And,
Sure.
white people get involved in strange things. And there are some First Nations people who get into nature worship or whatever.
Sure.
People get into
Absolutely.
it. So, but Greg's thinking again, I'm thinking that since they did not have the scriptures, I believe that there was a group of people in this country who cried out to their Creator. He answered them the same way he answered our forefathers in here. And
if I may stop you for a minute, and they would probably have no knowledge of the Hebrew scriptures at this point.
No.
So God was giving it to them directly.
This is pre-colonial writing.
Sure. Okay, that's what, yeah.
Yeah. So, it says right in the beginning of the book, pre-colonial revelations of God to Native Americans.
Wow.
And this is just one small, for instance, in one tribe, the Cherokee tribe. And they found from the oral tradition, the Cherokee God is a trinity. That is one being named Elohim.
No kidding. Like Elohim?
You got it.
Oh. Wow.
In Cherokee, Adu Nivdu is the word for Lord. You can see the similarity between that and Adonai.
Adonai, right.
According to the Cherokee story, creation took
7 days. Of course. This is amazing.
And man was made from red clay, and woman was made from first man's rib.
Oh, my goodness.
Actually, they called the first man Adam, which means red earth.
Adam.
Adam in the Hebrew language. Red earth.
Oh, wow.
In Cherokee accounts, there was a great flood which killed the giants. Imagine that. But Yohei said he would never flood the earth again.
Yohei-Wah?
Yohei-Wah.
Like Yahweh?
Do you think? The Cherokee kept
fascinating.
The Cherokee kept no idols.
Okay. Yeah.
6 days of work, one commanded day of rest.
Oh my gosh.
Cherokee considered eating pork unclean. Their Cherokee ceremonial songs often began with singing Hallel, Hallelujah. Cherokee did not practice divination. Being a witch or a bad medicine person was punishable by death. I believe
that is in Leviticus.
Yep. The Cherokee word for earth is Yakane, which means Yah's footstool.
That is amazing.
Oh, it's coincidence.
It's just coincidence, right? Somebody took, it was probably Amerigo Vespucci or somebody who came over and brought him a Bible, and they just, I don't believe that at all.
That was it.
This is amazing. That it just shows that God, he gave it to the Hebrews, also gave it to the Native Americans.
Yeah.
The same stories.
The same stories.
That is amazing.
In both Hebrew and Cherokee cultures, days are counted from sundown. They have the same sacrifices.
Yeah.
And they have feast days, the festivals.
Oh, wow.
They closely resemble Passover, the Feast of First Fruits, Pentecost, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. All these, and they are not Jewish festivals. They are God's festivals.
They are God's festivals. Yes, absolutely.
Festivals.
Leviticus 23 says these are the festivals of the Lord.
Of the Lord.
Yes,
and
not Jewish.
Exactly.
Yes.
Good. We're on the same page.
Yes, we are.
What was I saying? I'm so excited about that. And they were holding these festivals at the same time of year, basically for the same reason.
Yeah.
It was absolutely incredible. So I have these two that I thought were disparate things going in, interests, and God just brought them together.
Oh, wow.
And then, I've always wanted to go out to Arizona, California, Southwest Texas, New Mexico. Love it. And I'm also, those were my main interests: study of Hebrew, study of the First Nations cultures, and I also ride with the
Christian
Motorcyclist Association. That's why I'm wearing the vest tonight. So God calls me out there, and I get to go. Again, I was working at a semi-retirement job for the village of Shadyside, and I told them that I'd like a month off. I tried that again, and they said, well, they knew I was going to take it. They said, "You're not coming back, are you?" "Oh yeah, I plan to come back." 2 weeks later, I called them up and said,
I'm not coming back.
I can't come back. It was absolutely fascinating. I get out there, and first of all, I land in this little place called Quartzsite, Arizona.
Okay.
And can you tell me how we're doing on time here?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're actually coming up to the point where I would usually stop, but we're going to keep going. Please bear with us tonight. We're going to go a little bit longer, okay? Because Greg's got a lot to say here, and if it gets to the point where we're maybe going a little too long, I'll go ahead and end the live stream for tonight, so you guys can go have dinner or whatever, and then we'll just continue our conversation, and we'll play it again next week. How's that sound for everybody? Is that good for you?
That's great.
You ready to keep going?
Oh,
okay. Well, let's keep going for a little while and see how things go.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Okay. All right.
So I'm out in. No, I'm not in Arizona. I'll back up a couple. I'll back up a couple steps here.
Okay.
So last, I think it was October. Me and a biker buddy of mine were sitting around a campfire, and just kind of bemoaning the fact that winter was coming on. You can't ride too much in the wintertime.
Okay.
And a neighbor of his just happened by and heard us talking. He said, "Oh, you like riding in the winter?" "Yeah." He said, "Well, I just happen to have a trailer for sale in Quartzsite, Arizona." Okay. What's
coincidence.
What's a quartzsite? It's all coincidence. Lucky break.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it was. So, I don't know. I'd never heard of Quartzsite, Arizona.
Okay.
This time last year, I had no idea. So, he showed some pictures. It looked pretty good. So I decided to take the vacation, go check it out. And plus, tour around and I, take some more pictures and do the Facebook thing and,
Mm-hmm.
And I got out there. And it was like, yeah, this is it. I just felt, how it is when you come to a property and you just feel it. It's a tiny little 1-bedroom trailer with a shed, but nice, in a 55 plus RV park.
Okay.
I think I have 1 million of them out there. And Quartzsite, Arizona, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. It's a fascinating, quirky little town. It's a town that's about as smaller than Belair. It only has 2,500 to 3,000 people in it, full-time residents. But in the wintertime, it has swollen to over 1 million people in Quartzsite, Arizona. It's just become the place to go for. They put up this huge tent. It's for RVers, who drive in the expensive mobile homes, and
Mm-hmm.
they just go there and gather. They have a lot of RV parks, and more than that is that there's just, I believe, thousands of flat acreage of our land. It's national land. It's parkland.
Okay.
And it just stretches on for miles. And they have 4 huge campgrounds. It's easy to fit like 1 million people there. There's only a few 100,000, I think, last year, but you can imagine a town of 2,500 to 3,000 people growing to hundreds, several hundreds, 500,000, up to 1 million people. And
Wow.
And it's incredible the mix of people there. You've got your people who are very well off in these very expensive mobile homes.
Mm-hmm.
And right next to them, you got your hippie in the Chevy van. Or you got your, somebody came by in their sedan and pitched the tent. And you can stay in the campgrounds from like September 15th to April 15th
Okay.
for like $180, and you get water and you get garbage, and you can live out there really inexpensively, and a lot of people do. And it's just like a big community. It's and there's no classes. There's a lot of campfires, and everybody's from someplace else. So you just build a campfire, and who knows who's going to end up around there. It's just a fascinating little place. So I'm out there, and I've been out there a couple of days, and I figured, well, okay, Lord, I'm here. I think I'm supposed to be here. Now what? He must love questions.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
So I figured, well, okay, I need some Christian fellowship. It was Wednesday. I figured, well, most churches have Wednesday evening Bible studies. I'd go look for one. Mm-hmm. There's a number of churches in Quartzsite, some good ones. So I have a horrible sense of direction. So it was like a Tuesday. So I went out. I was going to actually find my way there, not depend, me getting there on time. So I go out and I find a church. Okay, this looks nice. Okay, I can do this. Well, I'll come tomorrow night for their Bible study. So right there, they got a Bible study.
Okay.
Wednesday evening. I like Bible studies. But the notion just hit me that ride around the parking lot. I didn't really need to. I can see the church right there. I'd ride around the parking lot.
I've been there before.
Sure.
You hear the Lord speak and you act on it. You don't know what you're doing, but you act on it.
I know what
Sure.
I was doing. I know what I was doing. So I was around the back of the church where I really had no business being, and I noticed a sign there, another sign. And it was a sign for Campers for Christ. Who just, another coincidence, happened to be having a 3-day gathering at the church, on the church grounds. They gather, and then they had just happened to change their venue from meeting inside the church to meeting outside the church, because they would have their campfires and then music, and then people would come by, and then they'd have testimonies, and they'd tell people about the Lord, and that's basically the ministry of Campers for Christ. So I'm reading Campers for Christ this weekend, and as I'm reading, there's this gentleman walking towards me.
Okay.
And he had to be, I still say, the timing just doesn't fit. He had to be coming out to meet me before I even pulled out.
Okay.
And I later his wife told me that they were in their camper, getting ready for their meeting that night. And she said, Kim, there's something going on out there. You'd better go out.
Okay.
So he was walking out to meet me, as I was reading the sign. He says, hey, you're CMA. Yeah.
CMA, Christian Motorcycle Association.
Here I am, clear across the country, and the first Christian that I meet
is somebody from
is wearing
CMA.
the same.
Oh, wow. Coincidence again, right? Yeah.
Again, it's amazing. And they were having their meeting that night, and although they had changed their venue to meeting outdoors and having music, well, they just didn't happen to have anybody for that evening who played guitar and sang, which I...
So they were actually doing that in the back of the church then?
Yeah,
that was their location.
Yeah.
But there was nobody there that night, and you happened to be riding around the parking lot because you're following God's command. This is amazing. I love this.
So, another thing I forgot to mention earlier is I was reading these books, like it's what the old ones say. I was also reading a number of other books. This is Warfare by Honor.
Okay.
And it has to do with the protocol of the Native American, the First Nations tribes. Their protocol is very important.
Okay.
And I don't want to diss anybody's ministry, but for hundreds of years, white guys like me trying to reach we're going to reach the Indians.
Sure.
We get down there, we've arrived. Okay, listen to us, and it has not generally been accepted well. because
Sure.
many of the first people who came here carrying our Bibles and talking about Jesus, at the same time, a lot of other unfortunate things like us
Yeah.
stealing their land,
Yeah.
and war
Yeah.
and torture and just horrid things.
Yeah.
So they're not real receptive to Jesus. Some of them.
Okay.
I can't make an overall statement, but
Sure.
but they say this themselves. People come in and their hearts are good, but they're acting kind of stupid because they're not considering. That they don't even make a study of the people that they're trying to reach for the Lord. And they're just tromping all over their tradition and inadvertently insulting them and just doing the wrong things. So, but now, let me back up one more time.
While you're doing that, I'm going to check something. I'm having a little technical difficulty. Like sometimes people ask
Imagine
questions on Facebook, and I see I have 12 comments, but I can't see them for some reason. So you go ahead and get yourself ready. I'm
If
going to
they're
take
really unkind, save them for later. You're just going to...
and I might cause an echo. So if I do, I will certainly fix it. But just let me take a quick look at some of the comments that might be on Facebook because I can't see them for some reason on the live feed. Been having all kinds of unusual difficulties with this setup, and I think the enemy's just trying to prevent me from continuing, but I won't be thwarted. God won't be thwarted.
That's right. Should I go on or should I?
Yeah, go ahead. I just
Okay.
may not be watching you
Oh, no, that's
for a moment
fine.
while
That's
I look
fine.
at this,
Okay.
but
So, getting back to that's what the old ones say,
uh-huh.
and I could give my personal testimony here, but that would that would really make this long. But short version, when I was 16, I accepted the Lord as my
Okay.
Savior and Master at a Billy Graham crusade in Pittsburgh. So I kind of consider
Okay.
Billy Graham a spiritual, forefather of mine.
Okay.
Now, in this book, that's what the old ones say. Billy Graham, my spiritual forefather, made a statement about 40 years ago that the Native Americans have picked up on.
Okay.
The First Nations people answer the divine calling that the Creator has placed in their lives as the original authority of the land. And I believe personally that God gave the First Nations people here, spiritual stewardship of this country.
Yes, I agree with that.
And just like he did Israel
with
He
the
gave it to the
land.
Hebrew
Yes,
people.
absolutely.
And when you miss, trying to take land from
Yeah.
that God has given to some people. So anyway, all these horrible things happen. But the amazing thing is that many First Nations people, I mean, there's still problems there, but many First Nations people are acting out of a heart of forgiveness. And forgiveness, as you know, is huge.
Yeah.
And they are now saying, here's the quote from Billy Graham.
Sure.
The greatest moments of Native history may lie ahead of us if a great spiritual renewal and awakening should take place, as we believe it will. The Native American has been a sleeping giant. He is awakening. The original Americans could become evangelists, the evangelists who will help win America for Christ. Remember these forgotten people.
Oh, wow.
That's
That was Billy Graham.
Billy Graham.
That's
Billy
amazing.
Graham said that. And, okay, now I'm reading about the protocol,
Okay.
and I'm in the Campers for Christ meeting,
Okay.
playing my guitar
Okay.
and singing.
Okay.
We're having a good old time. Well, the next night just happened that, in line with their new venue of inviting musicians there, they had happened to invite a father-son Native American worship, like musicians and evangelists, to be at their, at their camp, that 3-day gathering that they had. So the next night, I got the opportunity to play and sing with them. They, in turn, keeping with protocol, invited me to the reservation. I didn't just go onto the reservation. They invited me to the reservation. And they introduced me. Introductions are important.
Mm-hmm.
They introduced me to a man who was actually brought up to be a medicine man. But he had given his life to the Lord, and now he is an evangelist, taking his tent around to the First Nations tribes and evangelizing in line with what Billy Graham was saying.
Oh, wow.
And then through him, that's Pastor Key, he introduced me to Pastor Grizz, who is a musician, and he plays in full regalia, headdress, and he not only plays, but they have messages, using the regalia to illustrate teachings such as putting on the full armor of God, from the headdress to the,
wow.
to the breastplate, to the I mean, it's beautiful. So I was just being blown away, with, okay, God, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I could hardly walk outside of my place that I wasn't being introduced. The pastor of the church that I went to, people have been prophesying over him for years that, Lord's going to use you in a special, revival that's coming. So he became my pastor away from pastor.
Okay.
And through being on the worship team at that church, I met a lady that grew up totally Jewish. I mean, she could trace her lineage back to one of the tribes.
Okay.
And she was a vendor, but she was also a member of that church. She was a vendor in antique jewelry. And it just so happens that the Native Americans somehow, they just loved her, and they had adopted her, and they called her Little Israel. Again, the Native American, Hebrew connection. And as like I said, there were hundreds of thousands of people in Quartzsite, and she was inviting her fellow Christians. She would minister when she was not, selling her wares. She would minister to people, and she invited other Christians who wanted, to minister to just come by the booth, kind of stay out of the way, but, we could use her property to do whatever. So one day I was out there, and I was playing, I believe it was More Love, More Power, and had my eyes closed, as I usually do a lot of times. And I was playing away, and I hear this fantastic lead guitar, right there. So I'm at Little Israel's place of business.
Okay.
Thousands of people in this great big, it's a rock show also, gemstones, minerals, stuff like that.
Okay, sure.
And thousands of people coming by, huge show. And I'm playing away, and I hear this. And I look down, and there's this Native American guy on an electric guitar, just
no kidding,
wailing away. Coincidence,
Coincidence.
These things
Coincidence.
just happen. And
God's amazing.
Oh, he is. He absolutely is. And I fully expected that. This is it. It's going to happen this year. It's going to happen this year, right? It's going to happen this year. This year. This is it, right, God?
Right.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, no, not this year.
So, and I just sensed that it was time to come home. My pastor here sensed that it was time to come home.
Okay.
And then since I've been home, it's been incredible. One of the things, I know I'm supposed to be home for right now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I saw, when I went away and, kind of left behind the kids that that were coming out Brooks Run, and we had been praying for them, all winter long. And as I went to this place called a cowboy church, and then my own home church, and then I went to, I believe, Isaiah 58 church where they feed the homeless and hungry.
Okay, yeah.
So wherever I went, I had them praying for the kids here in Belair.
No kidding.
And, and then I come home, and then I'm trying to, the fellow who's working on my house tells me about this pastor in Bel Air.
Yeah.
So I come to his Sunday morning church service, and that's Pastor Ian.
Yeah.
And I come in toting my Tree of Life Bible, which I also heartily recommend. This is a Bible written more along the lines of how a Hebrew Bible. And one of the reasons that I like it so much is because where most of our Bibles, when they talk about the Lord, they will say the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But actually in ancient Hebrew, it gave the particular name of the Lord that they were addressing.
Yeah.
And as you well know, the name of the Lord can go all the way from Abba, Daddy,
mm-hmm.
Father, one that you could just crawl up on their lap and talk to, all the way to Adonai Tsabaoth, mm-hmm. The Lord God of hosts with, his eyes of flame and a flaming sword in his hand and in front of all his angels. And when he is addressing you like that, you don't say, "Hi, Daddy."
Right. You're like cowering on your knees.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
So, where was I? Oh, yeah.
So does it actually use those words instead of the Lord?
Yes.
So like Elroy or Elohim?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and it in the back it tells you what each one of those
Okay,
means.
very good.
And in the proper context, it used the proper names of the Lord.
Okay.
So I go toting my Tree of Life
That's
Bible
awesome.
into the Methodist church.
This church here.
This church here.
Yes.
Then Pastor Ian's up front going, "Well, our lesson today is on the names of the Lord."
Coincidence again, right?
You can't make this stuff up.
No,
and I really have no wrapper for this. It's just the Lord is working.
Yeah.
And the more there's like an awakening,
mm-hmm.
more and more people are seeing in detail
mm-hmm.
what the Lord is doing. And Jesus. Yeshua, there was no Jesus.
Yeshua, sure.
Yeshua.
Yep. Absolutely.
There was no J in the Hebrew language.
No.
And that's neither here nor there. But he is our example. And he says, "I only do what I see the Father doing." Mm-hmm. And it's like the Lord is opening up eyes everywhere to mm-hmm. what he is doing. He's leading up to something.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was out in Arizona going to this cowboy church. It was a church held in the campgrounds, out in the open. And you would go there, and after church, you talk about this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what are you doing here? I'm from Ohio. I'm from Illinois. I'm from Canada. A lot of Canadians. And they'd say, "Well, we're here for the weather." But sooner or later, they'd hear conversation after conversation. I just feel like the Lord wants me here, and they go, "Yeah, right. He's placing people out where he wants them."
Yeah.
Now, when I went out to the desert, I went out for the weather. I want to ride my motorcycle. Well, it happened to be the third coldest and wettest winter on record in Arizona since they've been keeping track.
And you just happened to be there at that time.
Yeah, you can take the boy out of the Ohio Valley, but I guess you can't take the Ohio Valley boy out of the rain. I mean, it followed me. It caught up with me. And
you should have left it there.
Yes. Maybe I should.
Yeah, maybe. Take me with you.
So anyway, when I first got out there, it was desert. Looked like a desert.
Mm-hmm.
It was rocks, sand, big hills, and they're very, stark and everything. But this, when the rains hit, and it kept raining, an incredible thing happens in the desert. I mean, it blooms, it blossoms. It's gorgeous out there.
Wow.
The cactus that are usually, they got these big needles on them, and all of a sudden they start blooming these great big red and yellow and white flowers. I mean, it's gorgeous. Yellow everywhere, purple everywhere. There have been so many seeds scattered, during the dry season. Mm-hmm. The whole hillsides turned green.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's gorgeous. And it was like, with all these things that we're seeing God doing, it's like he's doing with people what he's doing in the desert. He'll make a way in the desert.
Yeah.
All these seeds that were out there, you can't see them. You don't see anything going on. But God has put them all out there. And I'm sorry, I'm getting to this old James Taylor song going through my head. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. That was done very badly. Sorry. But anyway, I have in the spirit. Because in one sense, I know it in my knower that God is up to something. And what I see in my spirit, and I don't know this, but I think there is going to be revival fires. And I believe that they're going to start out west. And I happen to believe that Quartzsite, Arizona, where I have no sense of direction, but I found myself in what I believe is the epicenter of a revival that's going to go from the west coast, sweep all the way to the east coast. God had me go clear out to the left coast, the west coast. Somehow I felt like I needed to stand in the water with my guitar, facing east, praising him. I don't know what that was all about. I think it has something to do with the revival.
Yeah.
So you have the revival fires, but his spirit's going to be like the water that hit the desert. And when his spirit is poured out, it's going to bloom. People are going to be in the right place at the right time, and things are just going to start happening that we've never seen before. And I believe it's, pocket here, and it's going to be like those fires in California, though, here, there, and pretty soon the whole state's on fire. I believe the whole country's going to be on fire. Now, there's a saying in Quartzsite, Arizona. It's in their publications, and it's near Las Vegas. And the saying is, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but what happens in Quartzsite goes round the world.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And God is drawing people from all cultures. There's around little Israel's place of business, her antique, her jewelry tent. There was a Muslim. There's Buddhists. There's hippies. There's all of these people from all nations. I believe that God, with those, no matter what they believe, if they have a heart, I believe God is drawing them in. And I believe that there will be, Quartzsite will be at least one of the epicenters of this revival that we both believe is going to happen. And it will spread around the world.
Yes. Wow.
I'm going to wrap it there.
Okay. Wow. I hope you who are watching, just as amazed as I am at what Greg has shared with us tonight. I got chills with that last comment about the epicenter. This has been fantastic, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come out. I apologize to everyone on Facebook. I can't see the comments. I don't know what happened. I see there's a lot of comments, so if you had asked questions of Greg, what he and I are going to do, you got a couple minutes? Sure. Okay, after we wrap up, we're going to sit here, we're going to look through the comments, and if there's any questions, we'll answer them on the Facebook page. Okay? Sorry that we couldn't get to them while we were recording, but, technical difficulties. So, Greg, thank you so much for coming out tonight and joining me at the table. For all of you, thanks for staying with me a little bit later tonight, and we'll see you all next week.